Thought we had a good week. We had to correct the negatives from the game and build off the positives. So we felt like a big week of emphasis for tackling on defense. Even today in a spiders practice, did drills for that and did it every single day. Running the football, doing a great job with our technique up front offensively, and doing a better job of catching balls. Make sure we eliminate those drops. And so just trying to address the things we got to address and clean things up, get better. We want to be a better football team when we take the field on Saturday this week than we were last Saturday. So that's our goal. Questions?
Always kind of that consistent refrain that week 1 to week 2 is when the most improvement happens. Is some of that just because you can see a difference in sharpness in practice with guys, because no matter how, whatever you do in spring, whatever you do in preseason, there's just a difference after they've played a game?
There is, and when you're playing another opponent, it always exposes things, and so it gives you a chance to really, like you said, everything you've done all spring and all fall camp has been against each other. So you really don't know, was one side of the ball stronger than you thought, not as strong as you thought, whatever. And so I just think that, and then you got a lot of new guys too. I mean, you got several guys that's their first game or maybe their first start, and so they're getting a chance to do that for the first time. And sometimes guys get, either sometimes they perform better than you thought they were going to perform. Sometimes they don't perform quite as well. But then they get that first game under their belt, and they come back week 2, and they're much more comfortable. So there's probably a variety of reasons for it. But I think probably the biggest thing is just being able to coach off the film that you see. And now you got another week. You got a team now that played usually the week before. So you got some specific things that you can work on rather than just going through every game last year and kind of guessing on what you think they're going to do.
I know that you don't take any team lightly, but in a non-conference game early in the season, you're trying to balance how much to play Michael Penix, who needs the reps, but at the same time, you get to that point where you want to protect him. How do you judge how much to play him in a game like this?
Well, we're taking nothing for granted. I've been doing this long enough, and I've been on the other end of it. I've been in an FCS school and going to a place like this, and they got nothing to lose in the world of game, so they're going to let it rip, and they're going to play really hard. And it's a tradition-rich program that we're playing. I just got done talking to our players about some of the great players that they've produced, and they've got a lot of great players on their team right now, and they're going to play very, very hard. They're well coached. They got a Big Ten head coach that's been a Big Ten assistant for many years and brings that, understanding of how you play in these venues. And I watched them last year against Arkansas, and they played really, really hard and scored 20 points on an SEC team. Anyways, I just think that we'll deal with those as they come. But the bottom line is that we want to approach this thing like it's a normal situation, which it is. We got to go out and play our best football, and then we'll react from there.
How much does it help, especially the young kids, to actually see themselves on film for a game and learn from that?
I think it's huge. I just think you can't put a price tag on it. Like I even mentioned before, all those, all the reps you get tackling, whether it was positive or negative, you still got great things to coach off of. And we just made some adjustments for me in the way we've been kind of present things to make sure we're getting it right. And then I just think for both sides of the football, execution on offense, just being able to have more comfortable, being more comfortable with what we're doing. Even having a quarterback that's got a game under his belt now, full set of reps, and just be able to let those guys be coached and accept the positive and the negatives that come from a week 1 performance, and then just keep getting better.
How's Cam Jones?
Yeah, he's working hard, and so we'll see. We'll have to make a decision on him, game time for that. But obviously, the objective is to get him back 100%. And if he's not 100%, he's not going to play.
Reese Taylor, we expect him
Yeah,
back.
I expect him to play. So he's been here back all week, and like I said, it was a 50-50 last week. We probably could have played him, but chose not to. And I'm glad we were able to keep him for another week to keep him
Was
100%
Cam's
healthy.
I'm sorry, was Cam's injury a game injury or was it?
It was, and it was
Yeah.
at the end too, so which kind of stinks. But yeah, it happened there in the last drive.
Simon Stepanek said, I think on the radio show, that the offensive line has a chip on its shoulder. Maybe
Yeah.
It seemed like a group.
Well, they took it personally, and I called them out in two regards, to be able to run the football better. And that's a proud group, and there's 3 seniors on there that some of our biggest, strongest guys on the team, some of our best leaders, and they know that, they load the box or not, you got to run the football, and so they're. I expect them to respond in a positive way. So.
You talked about a lot of things that needed to be cleaned up after the first game, and all the coaches talk about the progress that's usually made between games or weeks 1 and 2. What's it been like out in practice for you? What have you seen as far as to getting that done?
Well, I thought we pick a word each week, and consistency is the one word that I chose for the theme for the week, and I thought it was very appropriate because we have to be consistent in the way that we approach every single practice, no matter what happens the previous week. And as a matter of fact, there's a phrase that I got from we brought in a sports psychologist here over the end of fall camp, and talks about embracing the boredom of consistency. That elite athletes can do that. And I think it's a great great way to say it, because it does get monotonous. It does get Monday, and it does get, how can you do that day after day, week after week? And I know we're early in the season, but still, they've been going at this for a while, and so, especially these older guys, and how do you still get sharper through all that? So to me, it's just about using that theme and that concept to approach it to how we get better. And I think our guys have embraced that. I think when you have a way to focus it in with words and different ways of presenting it, it becomes real to these guys. And they understand that they want to be a special football team. They want to do great things here, and we want to be able to break through and make history here in Indiana. In order to do that, you have to consistently, address the things that show up on film and keep getting better every time you take that field. And I think we got enough leadership that I expect that to happen.
So you talk about having film to look at. What's been the differences with Mike this week as he's gone through just all the kind of day-to-day of being the starting quarterback, going through the film from the previous game, getting ready for the next game? Has there been a huge tangible difference for you?
Well, just from observation of practice, and then from today's practice, I just think it just seems more comfortable, more relaxed. He's a pretty poised guy naturally, but I just think just overall in just running the offense, I just think it just gives you, there's nothing, and that's one thing that I've learned, when I made the transition from high school to college, there's just such a whole different, in that 48 hours leading up to kickoff, and when you leave the field on a Thursday until you have a lot of walkthroughs and meetings between that 2-day period there, that's where you really kind of sear into understanding what we're doing schematically, because you go in fall camp and you're just learning a lot of stuff. Now you're zeroed in on a game plan. Same with the quarterback. You zero in on a game plan, and it creates a ton of confidence in those guys when they study so much, and you meet and you ask tons of questions, and they're asking questions, and you give them these review sheets, and they take quizzes, and they watch film, and just all these things that lead up to kickoff. That's what we say we're going to coach till kickoff. And I think as a quarterback, especially a young one like that, man, when you go through that process, there's nothing like it. You can't simulate it. There's nothing like the game creating that situation and sense of urgency that creates. And so I just felt like that he benefited from that, and just seemed, I think every week he'll just keep more and more relaxed, more calm, more understanding of what he needs to do and how he needs to, run the offense with that kind of confidence.
You mentioned the 5 freshmen on your radio show yesterday that have a chance, not to redshirt and play all season. What have you identified in those 5 guys in particular that kind of stand out?
I think if you go through, Sean Ratcher, obviously he's going to play. He's our starting long snapper, so he's a guy. David Ellis, proved to me that he's a guy that needs to play. Taiwan Mullins, the guy that was out there, he's going to play. And so I just think those kind of guys that stick out to me, that even a guy like Samson James. I would, to me, he's a guy that's a big part of what we want to do. Yeah, he didn't get as many touches as I expect him to in the future, but just getting him involved in the process, I expect him to play. A guy like Matt Bedford didn't play, but I can see him being a guy that really is right there in the mix. And I think those guys are really, a big part of what we want to be able to do. So there's going to be more guys pop up, and it's never an exact science of how you figure it out. It's a week-to-week thing, but like you said, we have a base plan. We have guys on certain boards and certain lists, and sometimes those lists change based on injuries and things that happen throughout the season. So, but the bottom line is we got good core guys that we think we can get involved and get some value reps. DK is the guy that we got to figure out. Do you use the whole year for a guy that's going to focus on special teams? If he brings enough value in all those special teams, then you say, okay, if it's going to help us win football games, then we're going to do, with special team. But at the same time, if you can help, play in those 4 games, decide what those 4 are going to be, balance it up with maybe another guy that can play in those 4 positions or those 4 games in a similar position that's also a freshman, and you try to match that up as well. So that's kind of the behind-the-scenes thought process we go through.
How's Peyton and Jack been at practice the last couple weeks?
And I tell you what, I just awesome. And it's really, I had a chance to talk to Jack even yesterday, sit down with him one-on-one. Obviously done that with Peyton already, but just continue to talk to him and just encourage him and just see where they're at. But, they're very super positive. They're, when Peyton's in there getting all the 2 reps and does a great job. He executes the offense very, very well and will be ready to go when called upon. So, and then Jack's the guy that knows, his best football is ahead of him. I just really feel like he's got so much potential to be a great quarterback for us and has a lot of great qualities, and so I just got to keep encouraging him, I know in this era of quarterback mindsets, it's different, you look at it across the country, and it's a unique situation that we find ourselves in, but these are 2 pretty special guys that I think have really bought in and care about this team and want to help us do whatever we can to win.
Coach Stevie Scott said that he and the running backs were excited to get to watch the film, get back to practice. How they responded this week after?
Very good. I think they work really well together. As is always the case when a position that's got a lot of guys in it. There's always going to be a guy or 2 that doesn't play as much as they want to play. But my challenge with all those guys is when you're called upon, perform. And that's the key. Whether you get 1 opportunity, 2, 5, 10, 18, 20, whatever you get, when you get those, and on special teams too, you better. We have to use Samson James on special teams, and that's what we tell these guys. Hey, you guys want to be NFL guys. If you're not the starter at a position, you better be a great special teams player as a receiver, as a running back, and the defensive positions are given. But those guys don't always think that way, and so but those other guys, Ronnie Walker's got to be able to do that, and Samson's got to be able to do that, and you get Cole Guest and some special teams opportunities. So that to me is what we want out of that group, and so I think they want to run the football well too, and they want it to be great as we challenge all the time to be a complete back, blocking, catching, running.
Your defensive line is a line by committee of sorts and a lot of inexperience, but they're gaining that as you go along. What have you seen in their progress?
Well, there were a lot of positives from the game. I think DeMarcus Elliott, I thought really played well, and showed us some good bursts. I think, Jerome has a chance to be a dominant player. That's my challenge to him. I think he can be really, really special. Having Juan back and getting him in there, he's a very, very consistent player for us right now, And then Alan Stallings is just finally kind of getting back. He's been out with, springtime and then even some being in fall camp. We're working through with his body. And so, but he's now going full bore and excited to get in. I thought Mike Ziemba played well, and he did. Still got to be more consistent, but flashed and making some plays. Got to finish that one sack. But I just think as a group, we just got to find more depth at that three technique position. And Shamar did some good things. He's really quick, and then Jonathan King, another guy expected just elevate their level of play. And so I could list a lot of guys. And you got Gavin Everett, who's just Mr. Consistency, and gives phenomenal effort, and he's just a tough guy, So James Head's another one that so all those guys in there. It's definitely a group by committee. I actually like it that way. It allows our guys to stay fresh, and then also allows us to be able to just play a lot of guys, keep a lot of guys engaged, involved, and help us be a very good defense.
You said something else last night about Coach Ben Davis that you worked under would just let guys who were freshmen and sophomores just return the ball just to know if they had.
That's how you could tell if they could be a running back. That was totally his philosophy was, hey, kick it the guy back there and turn him loose. And just, as he would always say, hey, God decides who the good running backs are, because it's just an instinctive, natural thing. You can't teach a guy to set a block up and cut, obviously the twitchiness and the burst and all those kind of things. And it's a very natural, when you have a feel for how to run the football, and so I've never forgot that, and so, but I think kickoff returns shows that. The guys are really good at running with the ball in their hand, and so obviously David Ellis has a gift for that, and it's pretty obvious.
I think you mentioned you were like 8 or 9 years old in the stands watching the Holiday Bowl team.
Yeah,
I
I was 9 years old and at the Holiday Bowl.
What did you remember about that team that kind of made it special?
For me, we had one of my dad's, one of his players, my dad was offensive coordinator, and Coach Surface was the head coach at Newcastle, and Johnny Boyd played for Indiana. At the time he was young, but just being able to, to me, Coach Corso is what I remember the most. I actually remember watching his coaches shows, and they were all, it just was, I was a kid for sure, but just they were very entertaining, and but it's energy that he brought, and I didn't really I didn't really understand everything, but just understood that, man, they won a bowl game, and I remember Brigham Young at the time they had all those good quarterbacks, which they're known for, and they threw the ball around, and I remember that game I do as a kid, and so it's just to have that group back. As a matter of fact, I called all 4 of the captains last night personally, and talked to them, and just excited to have them as their honorary captains for the game, and just that group of guys, so they're obviously 40 years ago. It's hard to believe, my goodness, but how quickly time passes. But just the thing I remember was just Coach Corso, and just the way that, Tim Clifford, I remember him. We always know the quarterback, so but just those names that jumped out, and just being able to cheer for the Hoosiers, my home state team.
What's it mean to you as a head coach, and now you keep in contact with Coach Corso? What's that mean to you?
Pretty cool, and he's just such a, you see him on game day, and he just has given so much to our game, and but just appreciate him. He's been so positive and so excited about what we're building, the way we're building it. He believes in what we're doing, and just wants to see the Hoosiers really do well, So it's just really neat to have a guy like that in our corner and cheering for us.
Just one follow-up on David Ellis. When you talk about that gift he had, did you see it in his high school film? Was it something when you arrived here that you saw?
Well,
he's the guy
the high school film, this is what I would say. So to me, as we evaluate David, the bigger the game, the better he played. And I feel like at times, sometimes guys, it comes easy for them in high school, and they don't always play as hard as they have to, or until they have to. And to me, I think that's what he did. And sometimes you got to work through that when you get him here. But then when he got here, I just felt like he was a step quicker. I felt like he got some more thickness. We always knew he had a good, lower body strength and size. And then I just think that he's a better player. He's a better player here than I thought he might be early on. I knew he was going to be a good player for us eventually, but to say he was going to come in and be one of those guys that's going to play as a true freshman, you don't know that right away. And so I just think this is his ball skills, more of a natural receiver running routes than I thought. We looked at him more as a hybrid running back type guy, third down guy, but as he gets bigger and stronger, man, I think he's got a lot of value. He can do a lot of different things for you, in that slot position. And so we'll use him in that way. But yeah, to me, he's just kind of like a little bit like Stevie in regards to he was a better player as a true freshman than you may have thought he was going to be. All right, great. Thanks, Leo.
Thanks, Tom.